Here's Mike Pompeo on ABC News. I mean, clearly what happened is with the whole Taliban thing. I mean, aside from the fact that, like, it's bizarre timing. We should have been talking to the Taliban. We should have been talking to the Taliban 15 years ago, frankly. Probably would have gotten bin Laden at that time, but they didn't want to get bin Laden, of course, because had the Bush administration successfully captured bin Laden, then there wouldn't have been the same urgency required to invade Iraq. I mean, I think that's just the case. I just don't think there was a sense of urgency about that. A lot of people, have this opinion. Not a lot of people. I don't know. Some people have this opinion that we should have been talking to the Taliban much earlier. People forget we were talking to the Taliban in the spring, in the early spring, and in the summer of 2001. Dick Cheney's Energy Task Force was over there. You can go back and Google this. There were reports at the time. Some former envoys, I think, were in these meetings, and oil executives, where the Taliban was told, I'm trying to think of what the quote was, we can carpet your country with riches or with bombs. I don't know how mainstream those reports got at the time, but I remember tracking down contemporaneous, like maybe in 04, 05, interviews with people who were attributed as saying that, and they would not deny it, that they said it at the time in those meetings. And I've always postulated it's quite possible that the Taliban came back from that meeting. There was a sense of, like, the Americans are coming for us, and that's what created the timing for bin Laden. I'm going to strike before they strike us. Don't know. But clearly what happened here is Donald Trump wanted to get a political win. And not too dissimilar from what Bill Clinton did at the end of his term, I think, in rushing peace between the Israelis and Palestinians. Donald Trump tried to do that here. It has backfired. Hopefully it doesn't ruin the deal that envoys have been working on for months, if not years, to extricate us from the longest war we've ever participated in. But here's Mike Pompeo going out and basically willing to flush all that down the toilet so that the Mad King doesn't put him in the doghouse.
And we've been making progress. We'd had a commitment from the Taliban that said that they would break with al-Qaeda publicly and permanently. We had a commitment that said that they would reduce violence and that they would, for the first time, George, you know this, you were in an administration that tried to get Afghans to sit at the table together. We had a commitment that they would meet in Oslo to begin reconciliation conversation. And then the Taliban overreached. They killed an American in an effort to gain leverage at the negotiating table. And President Trump said enough.
But there have been periodic attacks throughout the talks. Why pull the plug after this one? In the past, when there have been attacks, you've said that was a reason to continue the talks.
Yeah, it's true. There have been attacks during the talks. Attacks from the Taliban on Americans and enormous attacks from American forces, putting in real pressure on the Taliban. George, we've, in just the last 10 days alone, killed over 1,000 Taliban. We have been fighting and talking in a way that America often doesn't do. It's what's driven us to be able to have the success at the negotiating table that we were beginning to have. But we finally reached a point where we were close. We'd made real progress, and then the Taliban failed to live up to a series of commitments that they had made. And when that happened, President Trump said, I'm not going to take that deal. I'm not going to work with someone that can't deliver on their commitments. Because in the end, George, you know this, a deal, an agreement is just a piece of paper. We have to actually see that change in behavior. And when we saw this activity, when we saw this action,
pause. I mean, because the key point is the lie that he told in the third place. They had no commitment yet. That's the whole point. They were negotiating. They had terms, but they had not made the commitment yet. Which is why he can bust through that and brag about killing 1,000 Taliban this week. and still say the president decided. No, what happened was they effed up. They made a deal with the Taliban and they did not let the Afghan government know about it. So when they were going to have this secret meeting, the Taliban was going to show up, but the Afghan government wasn't because they weren't involved in it, because they don't know what they're doing. And so they screwed it up. And so that Donald Trump needs to protect his fragile ego. I mean, I think it's this reductive. It's not like this was headline news. It's not like they report every time an American soldier gets killed in Afghanistan. Nobody pays attention to this stuff anymore. We could have probably, and we probably have, killed hundreds of civilians over the months that they've been negotiating
we have.
this.
It's been documented that there's record levels of civilian deaths in the last year.
No one reports it. It's just that Donald Trump, he had his feet hurt, and he's insane. And so who knows? Maybe we get out of there. Maybe we don't at this point.
Longer than World War II.
Oh, my God.
Well, longer.
Multiple,
longer.
what, like 3-4 times?
I think, though, I just want to add, too, I mean, when he says 1,000 Taliban at this point, I don't even know exactly what that means, because I think at this point, there's a Taliban in Pakistan, which is connected but separate, and it basically could just mean like any militia group that wants occupying NATO forces to leave.
Right.
Which, I'm sorry, that is an internationally valid position. You can't have a never-ending occupation of occupying forces that, incidentally, are just relentlessly killing civilians. I also want to say, and this is complicated, but it is worth mentioning, that during the Bush administration too, there were at least factions of the Taliban that basically said, we will hand over bin Laden if you don't strike us.
Oh, yeah.
You provide us with evidence of his direct role in the attack. And that was dismissed out of hand and reported as like, oh, this is part of what,
right,
crazy terrorists they are. But those are not illegitimate requests. Don't carpet bomb our country, provide material evidence, and we'll give you the guy you want. And probably, I mean, at that point, he might have already been gone into Pakistan, frankly. But, that's another context for what happened there.
Oh, we were offered
yes,
bin Laden
by the Taliban
with very minimal conditions very early on. But no, that was not the agenda. They wanted to go to war. I mean, that was the bottom line. They wanted the war, and they got it.
And they still have it.
Yep, they still have it.